an ironic media production. Visit us at ironickmedia.com.
The Patient Podcast is brought to you by Accredited Home Care. Are you looking for some help at home? Do you have a loved one who wants to age independently at home? Maybe they need some assistance with cooking, cleaning, bathing, grooming, exercise, or simply a companion that helps to keep them happy and safe in their own home. Accredited Home Care has been caring for Southern California residents for over 40 years and is recognized nationally as one of the top home care agencies. We have been honored to serve our clients with the best caregivers in the business. The Los Angeles Business Journal named Accredited Home Care as one of 2019's most influential family-owned businesses in Los Angeles, and Forbes magazine named Accredited one of the best places to work throughout California. To set up a call and discuss your family's needs, please go to accreditednursing.com or call us directly at 1-800-986-1234. You can also learn more about home care and home health by listening to episode 15 on the Patient Podcast with geriatric social worker Neil Rotter. Please subscribe to the Patient Podcast to stay up to date on all healthy topics and leave us a review. Now back to the Patient Podcast.
Hello, and welcome back to the Patient Podcast. I'm Nicole Blaine, your host, and I'm really excited for you to hear this episode. I knew nothing really about hypnotherapy, and I had even sent my daughter, and it worked a couple years ago, and went, I don't get it. What is it? So to really sit down with a certified hypnotherapist to find out what happens in our brain, why would hypnotherapy work, to really kind of come at it from a scientific level and see how it can help. And it's pretty incredible. I get to sit down with PK Maxx. She is amazing. She talks about you could have any types of topics. She could help you work through fears and phobias, weight loss, smoking, addiction, negative thoughts, depression, anxiety, career, failure feelings, relationships, physical ailments. She covers it all in her practice. But I kind of wanted to know why. Why does it work and how does it work and what can you really get and what do we need to know? So she dives right in. She also has gifted us, I'm so excited, a 20-minute bonus track that is a guided meditation. So you can go ahead and look on the podcast. You'll see right after this episode, the next one is going to be her bonus track, and you can relax and listen to her, and it's pretty incredible. So I'm excited she gifted us that, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about her background. She discovered hypnosis at an early age after taking a self-hypnosis class. PK Maxx became fascinated with the power of our minds and how we personally control our own lives and destinies. With the knowledge that harnessing our own personal power allows us to manifest the life of our dreams, PK began a lifelong journey into studying and practicing self-hypnosis. This eventually led her to become a certified clinical hypnotherapist and therapeutic guided imagery master, helping others to gain control and power over their own life choices, relationships, habits, and fears, allowing them to manifest physically and emotionally their very best lives. I'm so excited for you to listen to my incredible guest. Please welcome PK Maxx to the Patient Podcast. Hi, this is Nicole Blaine, your host of the Patient Podcast. Each week, I get to interview top medical professionals who will share their knowledge and expertise. And since I happen to be a professional patient that is fluent in speaking in layman's terms, I will break it all down for us patients so we can fully understand how the complicated healthcare system works. Let's learn the tricks of the trade together on the Patient Podcast, brought to you by my professional and personal family at Accredited Home Care. Enjoy! PK Maxx, I cannot thank you enough for being here. I feel like people need to know maybe just the beginning of what inspired you to devote your entire life to this work.
Oh, well, that was easy. I was 19 years old.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, I was a little LA girl. I was a fashionista. I was just an LA girl. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking to go to fashion design school.
Mm-hmm.
And then I took this self-hypnosis class. My friend and I, we were on college break, summer break.
Okay.
And somebody had given us the phone number of an astrologer.
Okay.
And in those days, everything was so woo-woo and right. And we just thought this was going to be too good to be true. So we drove all the way out to Pacoima to this woman, which was like, we were city girls and that was the ends of the earth in those days. And she gave me an astrological reading, and then she gave my friend an astrological reading. And then at the very end, she handed me this green flyer. I mean, I can still see it to this day. It was for a self-hypnosis class that her friend of hers was giving. And she said to me, I think that you really, really will resonate with this. I think this is something you should do.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
So my friend and I went. Of course, my friend, after the first night, left. I became fascinated with the idea that we actually could control our minds and our thoughts and our behaviors, and that we had control over ourselves. This was a possibility in life. Now, when you're 19 and you think, God, I can control my destiny. Isn't that amazing? Of course, at that time, I was thinking, well, I'll control my destiny as a fashion designer.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking at that age, I want to go become a hypnotherapist. I want to be an LA girl and do that. But I had made a promise to myself when I was in high school that I didn't know what I was going to do, but that I knew that I was going to live in this more materialistic world and this more LA lifestyle, and that all the things that I would do would have to do with creating a better career and success and getting married and, and all those things. But that by the time I got into my latter years, that I would give it all up and completely devote myself to spirituality, to a spiritual life. Now, I'm telling you, I was not raised with much religion at all. It wasn't, I just had that in me,
what's interesting is that the astrologer saw it in you.
Saw it in me. Exactly.
Just not that I want to like hang back into that space, but it was so amazing to hear that part of the story of first of all, Pacoima.
You're right.
I mean, an astrologer at a Pacoima.
Right, at a Pacoima.
Let's just start there with comedy. I don't know what made you think that you needed to leave LA and like Melrose and Hollywood, and you had to go to Pacoima. I mean, Venice has, 82 astrologists sitting right now.
Exactly.
Could have given them a quarter. My kids would read your tarot cards, is what I'm trying to say.
Exactly.
You didn't need to go to Pacoima. But I'm so glad you did, because what an interesting... do you think that woman knows that exchange ended up completely rerouting you? Do you ever just kind of wish you could go back and connect with her and be like, so by the way...
I don't remember. I think, but yes, because after I took her friend's class, I took her friend's next class, then her friend and I became very close. Then I saw her friend for my own hypnotherapy sessions all through the years. So I'm sure she had to know. She had to know all of that. Yeah. And for me, when I went into the fashion business, it's the top 3 of the most stressful businesses on earth. I mean, it's just insane. You might as well go into coal mines and hope that you're going to come out alive.
Is the fashion world really?
Yes.
Well, maybe it's because they're also hungry. Maybe they just to eat some food and not have as much cocaine. I don't know.
Those are the models. That's not even half of it. You know what? It is a business where you rely completely on other people that are also not educated. Yeah. You're relying on immigrants that have come in that are cutting and sewing and doing all these processes. And then you're dealing with foreign countries. Like in those, when I first started, it was Hong Kong as opposed to China and India. And there's very little communication and a whole lot of never-ending mistakes. On top of that, you're dealing with season to season competition that you just have to constantly be psychic in order to know the next move in fashion. There's so much you must learn about the feelings and the trends and colors and how people react to political situations has an effect totally on what fashion is all about. How they react in all kinds of ways, and what ladies that go to church want to wear, or temple what they want to wear. And you have to understand the mentality of a teenager versus a middle-aged woman, and all these things that you have to start getting into other people's skin. Yeah. You must understand how they feel in order to give them a product that they're going to actually want to buy. And then you can do all of that, but it goes out to salespeople to sell. And then it's a free-for-all. So you never know. And the rejection rate is so high. And then you finally get things that sell and you're on a roll and it's great. Everything goes wrong when it's being made.
So when did you shift quickly out of that? Like how long?
I was in it for almost my whole adult life. It was just a few years ago I stopped doing it, although I wasn't doing it full time anymore for years. I was just doing it because I had connections and it was easy to make money. And, it was just at that point. But I actually became a hypnotherapist. That was my time because I knew that I couldn't count on my hands and my toes how many people that I knew in the apparel business that either died from overdoses or drug addicts or alcoholics or just committed suicide or died from heart attacks.
Yeah.
It was because that's how stressful the business was.
And that's where I feel like post coming out of this pandemic, as we are all slowly, climbing out of it, that negative space, that pressure, that anxiety, that depression and feeling so out of control is a perfect fold into now your new work. I can't see, because the concept of you saying you wanted to control your life, that really resonates with me. I mean, it resonated with me probably when I was 19 too. And it really does now. And wanting to control our world and make it better. So how does hypnotherapy or something that really does, like, listen, it is beyond me. I do not know the world of hypnotherapy. I really am being serious when I say, what is it? Like, how would you explain what hypnotherapy is and how it works for people?
Well, hypnotherapy is actually a process. It's a natural process that we go through every day of our lives. We put ourselves in and out of it. For example, did you ever drive somewhere and you're thinking about, really focused on something else that you're thinking about, and you get to that place and you go, oh my God, how did I get here? I don't remember getting here.
All the
Driving
time.
here all the time, right?
Yeah.
That's a state of hypnosis.
Oh, my husband calls it Nicole Land.
No, it's hypnosis.
So apparently.
And let me tell you, your husband does it too, but he may not do it with driving. He may do it with movies or with just anything you can focus on. Where you tune everything else out.
Okay.
So that's what hypnosis is. And we do that. It's a part of our survival mechanism and how we handle stress. Then also, if you're under too much stress, you will automatically put yourself into a state of hypnosis if your body is reacting the way it should, meaning it's a defense mechanism against your own anxiety by just taking you out, and you suddenly feel spaced out of nowhere. Or if you've been crying too much, if you've been thinking too much, and all of a sudden you're just, I'm exhausted. I'm so spaced out from that. That is a form of hypnotherapy, of hypnosis as well. If you're listening to a boring lecture and you're thinking about something else, the next thing you know, the lecture's over. Again, it's a state of hypnosis.
But
so
I
it's
don't
just
know
a very natural process.
Where do I go? Where am I?
Well, okay. Well, this is how that works. First of all, just to know loud and clear that real hypnosis is a combination of complete focus and physical relaxation. Okay. So like if you're really tense and you're focused, that's not going to happen. It's when you are relaxed and focused that you really go into that. You have to look at the brain and how it functions. And mind you, when I got into hypnotherapy, which was so long ago, it was just woo-woo. It was not scientific. Science has really caught up with it. And now we know more about what's really going on.
Look, when I grew up, I saw lots of hypnotherapy and I saw many stage versions of people quacking like ducks.
Yeah, right. Well, that's a whole different story.
But that's like I feel like that's unfortunately most of our idea of it. I feel like there's comedians, magicians, mimes, and hypnotists, right? Like on the food chain of performers. Hypnotists are at the bottom. No offense. They are barely right below, mime.
Right. And the truth is that there are people that actually go on that stage and do become hypnotized. They're very highly suggestible people. And that works. I'll just tell you quickly. When you do stage hypnosis, the audience is sitting there and the hypnotist will put up some type of a eye fascination of some sort, like a twirling something or something that's just moving, anything. And they're watching the audience from behind the stage. And they're looking to see the people that are fascinated with those things, that are not talking to the people next to them, but are like staring. Those people are highly suggestible. They're getting right into it. And so those are the people that, that when you get them on stage and they're nervous on top of it, because nervousness too can get you into that state, They actually will
Interesting.
quack like a duck and bark like a dog, and it is for real.
So basically they're casting. They're looking in the
That's
audience and
exactly,
they
yes.
realize, look at that chump
I
staring at the
shouldn't be saying
circles.
this. It's like I'm giving away the magic tricks.
Listen, I could also tell you it's the same way to get on The Price is Right. Okay. They do it. You stand in line for hours. Some guy comes down and asks you a bunch of questions. And the people who are from out of town and jump up and down with excitement and can't wait to like get on, like that's who they cast. They're not casting
Right.
the guy who's like, whatever, my wife dragged me here.
Right, right. That's right.
Okay.
So, and that, and it's really sad because people really think of it that way. And yet the science of it now today is so huge that there's no denying that this really works. And we know why it works.
So tell me a little bit about the science of why it works.
Okay. Yeah. Without getting into all the long words
yes.
and the anatomy and all that stuff, because that'll probably bore people to tears. Imagine a grapefruit, the size of a grapefruit, and then the size of a kiwi. Well, this grapefruit represents everything that you don't know is really going on in life. Okay. It's what happens to you in life. This is where all the information goes in, where your program starts. So like, this is how you're being programmed. So imagine you're a computer and people are stuffing in the software, right? And you're getting all these programs, and that's with everything in life. What it does is you, through your feelings, through your senses, information becomes attached into this part of your brain, which is our subconscious mind. And it deals with everything that then becomes automatic behavior. For example, you learn how to read and ride a bicycle and drive, and that's with driving. You know how to drive. It's already programmed into you. That's why if you're not even really seeing it, you think you're not seeing anything, you still get to that place because you already know how to drive. So it's the same with the words that come out of your mouth, your actions, your reactions, your habits, your behaviors, your fears, your phobias. It's everything, how you automatically feel about something, even though it might be completely irrational. There's no difference between that and biting your nails. It's habitual.
Yes.
It's a habitual process. So this program is sitting inside of you. You got a bazillion programs that are programmed inside of you through neural pathways and all this other stuff. And there's a whole process to that. But now you have this little bitty kiwi on the other side.
Okay.
And the kiwi represents the conscious part of your mind, your brain. That part isn't fully formed until you're 25 years old, but it really doesn't start to develop until you're around 8 or 9 years of age. That's why when you look at your own kids and you say, God, they're like, they're learning so quickly, right? They learn so quickly, but on the other side, they have what they're lacking, which is what you get inside your conscious mind, which is logic, reason, willpower, and decision-making. Those things begin to form in your conscious mind. So that's the adult behavior. It's forming, it's growing, but it takes quite some time until it's fully formed. Okay, now here's the issue.
Okay.
My definition of willpower, it's something that you never have when you need it, right? So that's because your conscious mind, which is responsible for those thoughts and feelings, thoughts that you have and the things you want to do and all that, this is itty bitty. It's a very tiny portion of your brain. There's some argument about how much that is, but I can tell you that I have read things where they say it's 88% is your subconscious, the things that are unknown to you, and 12% is your conscious brain. I see other things that say 95% is your subconscious.
Wow.
And only 5% is your conscious mind.
Are they getting this data based off of functional MRIs and when?
Yes, all sorts of things.
And they
all
light up.
All kinds of things. I've seen videos where they're showing neural pathways, which is neural pathways form the information inside of us. That's the easiest way to say it. And they have to connect. And I'll explain that after that. And I have seen it, watched them connect. And the most amazing thing was a few years ago, I saw an actual video of a neural pathway disconnecting, which means that information that you have is actually disconnecting. And that's something that's all like, it's pioneering in the future. It's still like way new revelations and all this stuff. So, I mean, it's pretty amazing, but it is showing you the power that you have. And those things happen. You learn information through repetition.
I don't even want to derail you, but I'm also now kind of stuck on how do you do what you just said, the disconnect of those
Okay.
neurotransmitters.
Okay.
Like,
So
what?
the next phase is, so now you have this big grapefruit and then you have the kiwi, right? And in
Mhm.
between there's a section of your brain. It has a very strange name, anterior cingulate gyrus. It's just not even important to know this name. But this is the part that I love to call the gatekeeper or the bouncer at the nightclub.
Okay.
Okay. And here's how this works. You think a thought, let's say, I don't know, you want to lose weight. And that information goes right into the bouncer at the nightclub, right?
Okay.
And the bouncer says, what's the bouncer's job? It's his or her job to decide whether or not you belong inside that nightclub. Are you thin enough? Are you pretty enough? Are you handsome enough? Are you young enough? Are you whatever? You know, these awful things that happen when there's judging people standing in line, whatever it is. And then they look and they say, here, you in, go on in. You can go in now. You, no, you can't go. Right. That's exactly what your brain is doing. You think this thought, I want to lose weight. Okay. And that information goes right down into this area of your brain. And the bouncer is standing there saying, wait, let me look down into the subconscious now and see if you have any information there that matches that you actually can and will lose weight. So it goes down there. All it gets are programs that say you're a fatso, you're ugly, you'll never lose weight, you're pleasantly plump, your, eating is terrific, or it has, even the negative connotations makes no difference. You were bullied at school about your weight, whatever it is, because your subconscious doesn't register between positive and negative. It's just a program.
It's just there.
Yes. So if your subconscious has determined that you can't lose weight or it will always be difficult for you, that part of your brain is going to send it back up and say, sorry, you're out.
It basically it's overriding it.
It overrides it.
It overrides it. We already decided, the unconscious collective has already been programmed.
You got it.
You are not allowed to do that. So sorry, you can keep trying and it's going to feel very frustrating, but good luck. We're not going to let it happen.
You got it.
Oh God.
So, and that's with anything. You just pick a topic, anything that goes on in your life that doesn't work for you, because let's not go to the places that work for you. We want to go to the places that don't work for you, whether it's in your relationships and types of communication or your fears that you have. I mean, everything really revolves around fear and anxiety and, stress related things. That's kind of the core of the majority of issues we have. I actually think that everything on earth stems from fear in one way or another.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah. So, and then we have this part of the brain that we want to discuss, which is, what we're born with, which is our fight flight responses as well. So we deal with that in inappropriate ways because
nature. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the nature of the world we live in today.
Right. And the nature of our makeup and probably that unconscious and what we do.
All of that. Yeah. Because we've got all kinds of, remember, we're not just bringing in with our DNA the physical characteristics of our ancestors. We bring in their emotional aspects as well.
I've heard
we bring in their memories as well.
You really think so?
Well, absolutely, because it's all within there. And so there's no separation between mind and body. You see, because the brain is attached to the body through the spinal cord, and it sends out signals through the entire body, through our blood, our cells, and gets into our cells. And that's how our body functions. So when DNA is passed along, it's a mind and body connection. It's not just the body that's being connected. So we've got all this genetic stuff going on, and then we have the learned behaviors on top of that we learn from our family. So all this, there's so much to it. There's so much involved.
The collective trauma.
Exactly. It's all of that. And so how are you going to go and take away these programs? Now, I can tell you that I don't call it past life regression. I call it genetic regression.
Okay.
And I have done readings for many, many years. And I have had several clients that have started speaking languages they don't speak. And you hear of those things, right?
You hear serious?
It. They have never been to that country. They don't know what it is. And yet they are speaking another language.
Oh my God.
I call that genetic memory because some of their ancestors will have that. And, when you really work closely with people on these, past life, they come for past life and then they, realize that there's genetic regression. It's because when you really look at it, if you really have a good reading where it's not somebody that's just making things up in their mind and they didn't really go under and, all those things.
Well, that's what I was going to say to you. I was like, you don't know French and she's pretending to speak it.
Yes.
She fooled you.
But there are other things than that. When you get clients that are, they're describing tiles on the floor in great detail, something like that. And then, when you work really closely and you go back and you start looking at their ancestry and they know that they are Egyptian. Wow. And that they were laying these tiles and that they could see the tiles everywhere. And when you look it up online, that there it is, that same exact thing. And so the stuff's really fascinating, but it's not always. Most of the time you don't get that gem with a client.
Right. You've been doing it long enough that you can now say.
But when you do get that gem, it's extraordinary. And you can't, you can never unsee it. You can never unhear it. It profoundly changes your life. It just changed my life, and it changed my whole way of being on this planet. Just watching all of this and listening and learning from all of this. It's really pretty extraordinary. But
so now I'm wondering, so if you're able to tap into the bouncer at the club in our brain, right, is basically, I'm wondering if that's where you PK, the hypnotherapist, steps in.
That's exactly where the hypnotherapist steps in.
And is that way you're going to connect?
That's our gateway to their subconscious mind.
And then what happens?
Okay. So this part of the brain really relaxes as your body and your brain do. And it starts to concentrate. Your conscious, your conscious mind is hearing this information that the hypnotherapist is giving you. And this information is going down there. And as it gets in there, the hypnotherapist starts to guide the information by already knowing, because that's a part of the talking part of the therapy. Mm-hmm. They're coming to you and they're saying, I want to lose weight. Well, what happened to you? There's something down there that's causing you to not do it.
Okay.
And we have to get to that.
Pause for just a second, because this was going to be one of my questions. So full disclosure, I sent my daughter to PK to have some hypnotherapy sessions because she was having some stress, anxiety, and a fear of the ocean. I don't know if you remember that. And she's like, that surfing was her favorite thing, but all of a sudden she was like freaked out of the ocean. So we sent her to you. And then this was a couple years ago. But now I was like, wait a second, I need to interview you. And so I was asking my daughter, I was like, how much time in this therapy session did you give backstory? Right? Like, because this is interesting to me because I've never had a therapist. So how much, you tell me you have X amount of time with a person when they do a session with you. Is it an hour? What do you normally do?
Well, I'm pretty flexible with that. Like I don't book things back to back, so I let them go. But you can go for an hour and a half is usually. You don't want to keep people under for too long because that's when their mind will start to wander. They will start to come out naturally. And so what you want to do is, hit them quickly with these bits of information that they need to learn and relearn.
So do you typically have more than one session with someone to achieve a goal?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Anybody that says that hypnotherapy can be done in one session, if you have an extremely, extremely suggestible person that believes that if you tell them the sky is green, well, they're actually going to see a green sky. And there are people like that out there. Then you could probably do it in a session, but chances are no. It depends. Everybody's different.
Okay.
I have people that do it for 5 or 6 sessions and some people that can go up to a year.
And then maybe come back for, I have a new issue. And you come back
for new issues and tune-ups. People that have just basic habits where they're not necessarily addressing why the habit happened, but just that they started smoking. And so they need to stop smoking. We don't necessarily need to address the why, but we need to just get rid of that habit. And so, they'll come back for tune-ups so that when they get into like a stressful situation or they're sitting around drinking cocktails with a bunch of people that are smoking, that they won't fall back into it.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. So how much of that session, especially in the first intake, when you're first meeting a new client, how much time do you spend on backstory?
An hour and a half to 2 hours.
Of all backstory before you even dive in?
I would say about an hour on backstory. Okay. But it's not just that, you see, because I start doing suggestibility testing.
Oh.
Because your suggestibility is going to depend upon how I'm going to hypnotize you.
Okay. Tell me what you're saying, because that sounds really interesting.
Okay. Well, we all learn differently. To just, in spite of the fact that teachers will never say that because they're teaching a whole class of people and they all have to learn the same way or else
Yeah.
Too bad for you, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But each one of us, just like we have fingerprints that are different from everybody else's, we learn differently. Every
Mm-hmm.
person, and that everything that's in our subconscious is actually, our subconscious is turned inside out, as I like to say, by our body language, our
Mm-hmm.
movements, our voices, the
Mm-hmm.
tone of our voice,
Mm-hmm.
the way in which we perceive things as we look at things, how our eyes look. It's all your body language that brings out what's inside of your subconscious. Just how you walk into a room and sit can tell somebody right away what's going on.
So you have a few different ways that you would put someone
Yes.
into a hypnosis state.
Right. Well, you start looking at that first.
Okay.
That's the first thing I start looking at. What is their body language doing? And when they talk about certain things, where are their eyes going? All of
Oh,
that tells me it's a clue as to what is truth
okay.
or what is truth only to them,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because we
Mhm.
all make our own realities and
Mm-hmm.
how we perceive information,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's not truth at all and they're just going off on a tangent somehow. There's a lot of ways that you start to detect that. But the other thing is that, I start to ask questions that will tell me, it will give me clues as to how suggestible they are. For example, if you're just a real simple thing, you walk into a room full of people and it's a party, then you don't know anybody. Would you feel comfortable going up to somebody and just talking to them?
No, I
Okay.
hate that. I hate parties.
Right. Okay. So that's a tiny little suggestion right there
Mhm.
that you have, you're living internally as opposed to externally.
But
There's a scale.
But here's what's so weird is that, like, my mother, who knows me so well and we're so close, I told her I'm 43 years old, and I just told her the other day I hate parties, and she was like, "What? I thought you loved Like, also, this is what, like, you're saying, the truth and reality. People look at me and think, oh, she's a
Right.
complete extrovert. She's so fine. Like, she loves those things. And I'm like, no, I'm tortured by them.
Well, I'll tell you that would make a whole lot of sense because I don't really know you,
Mm-mm.
but I know some things about you. And so I know that you're Jewish, right?
Mhm. Yep.
Okay. And I know that the Jewish folks here on the world have a tendency to grow it, in a cultural experience like Italians and
Yeah.
Spaniards, right?
Yeah.
Everything is very loud and
Yeah.
large, and
Yeah.
you're really out there
Exactly.
with yourself, right?
Yes.
But that has to do with it's a cultural aspect of your personality, but it's not who you are inside.
Totally.
And so, it's not so important for me to know what you do in your personality. Remember, a lot of that is just your conscious mind and what you're deciding consciously how to act and
Right.
react.
Right.
Okay, we want to know how you subconsciously choose to act and react because that's the big brain right there.
Mm-hmm.
You want to know that stuff because that's your program. Everything in your conscious mind isn't programmed in there. These are things that just manifest themselves on a daily basis inside of your brain, but the stuff that's already programmed in there,
Mm-hmm.
that's what we need to get to, the stuff that doesn't work for you. So
Okay.
that's how, that's how that process works. And so through the power of repetition
Mm-hmm.
and through the power of imagery, because remember, we dream symbolically and with imagery. That's the language of our subconscious. We have to go there in order to get your subconscious to really understand and take this information and create the neural pathways and own it as their own, as your own for what it is.
What do you mean?
Well, you have to let's say you want to learn a new language. Okay, we'll put it in simple terms.
Okay.
Well, when you're very young,
Mm-hmm.
before your conscious mind is really all formed, before your brain is all really there,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to learn a new language just by sitting in a room full of people speaking without any lessons whatsoever.
Right.
You're just going to learn it.
As a baby. Mm-hmm.
Because you're sponging it up.
Right.
You see, you've got no conscious mind there that's getting in the way of thinking about it and, and reasoning with it and trying to make logical situations. You don't have anybody saying, no, you're not saying to yourself in your brain, oh, I can't learn this because nobody's teaching me to do it. I'm only hearing it.
Right. There's no judgment.
No.
Yeah.
There's no filter.
There's no filter.
Okay. So as you get older and this brain starts to form, the older you get, the harder it is to just soak up information.
Because we start judging ourselves and
we have a conscious mind that's in the way of all of that. And so what we have to do is constantly repeat things. So if you want to learn another language, you're going to have to constantly say "Hola Paco, ¿qué tal? Hola Paco, ¿qué tal?" over and over and over until you get that. And then you go on to the next thing. And then you go on to the next thing until you reach a point where you either go to the country of origin and you start speaking this language, or you just somehow become so immersed in it in your own community that you can do that. And then that's how you learn that information. And then when you speak it, it becomes automatic. You are fluent in it.
So instead of it being a language, someone could come to you and say, I feel like a failure and my career
Yes.
dreams. Like I'm just
A lot of people say that. As a matter of fact,
right.
Probably everybody that comes to me feels that way in one form or another.
So how could hypnotherapy help with something that feels a little less more like a feeling, less of a tangible? Because if you lose weight, you can see it. If you learn a language, you can speak it. What do you do for the bigger pieces? Like, I feel like a failure. And what if I've decided the only way I'm going to determine my success is if XYZ happens, and it just never happens because there's too many other people in charge of XYZ?
Well, yeah. When you feel that way, we start getting to the root of why you feel that way. You don't necessarily have to go into like what you would in psychotherapy, where you would get into, what your mother and father did to you or how that happened, because these things are so, they're cultural, they're environmental, they're everything, why we are that way. But you need to chunk it down. Like, how did, what in its smallest division here, okay, what makes you feel like you failed? And then let's go into that. So we start doing that. Now, I personally love to do therapeutic guided imagery with my clients, where I go in and I ask them questions while they're under and they speak to me, because that really helps me to put pieces together very quickly. And a lot of what they will say doesn't even to them make sense. But as I'm writing this all down, I start to see it's forming. The whole pattern is forming of what really happened here. What's going on? How did you interpret this in your mind to make it a part of who you are? It's not really who told you that you were a failure, but how did you hear that? Because oftentimes kids will say, I always felt like a failure because of my things that my mother said to me. Well, what did your mother say? Well, it's not what she said. It was just how she looked, or, and the truth is, if you'd ask the mother would say, what are they talking about?
Right.
Right. Because their brain interpreted it in a certain way and decided to own it as their own. This is who I am now. This is my program here. This is how I feel about myself.
And it's buried, and then we forget that it's there, and it's in the unconscious, and then
but you still feel that way. You're a failure. That's it. And so everything you do in life, you will, not everything, but many things in life you do, that depends upon how deep that program goes inside of you, you will fail at, because it's your self-fulfilling prophecy. So this is who you are. And then we go to what's known, what we know, not what we don't know. We're only comfortable with what we know. So if we know inside that we're a failure, we're going to continually create that in our lives so that we're very comfortable. This is what we know.
So when you get them into this hypnotic state, you talk to that bouncer guy, and that's where you hear their real thoughts.
We connect.
And then
we
you
connect.
And can
what
you
I do is give
it?
them suggestions. Give them suggestions over and over in different ways, in different directions. For example, if you had a fear of whatever, it doesn't matter what it is, okay? Fear of anything.
Oh, like my daughter with the fear of the ocean.
Okay. And so I might, it depends, because everybody's different, say, okay, well, you're going to go to the ocean, and now I want you to visualize and imagine that there's this big, huge dial in front of you, and it goes from 0 to 10. And at 0 is no fear of the ocean at all. And 10 is major fear. Okay. I'm going to say, I want you to turn that dial down a little. You don't do it all at once. You can't, because then nobody takes him. It has to be done in baby steps. We only learn in baby steps. It's too shocking. Otherwise, we'll just throw it back out and say, oh, no. Right.
Yeah.
So
I told you I couldn't do it. It's too much. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. We'll say, we're just going to tone that down now. And as you look at the ocean starts to become so more comfortable and familiar. And then I'll have them take them to a place where they always feel comfortable and safe and warm and loved. And then add the ocean into that as part of the equation. so that they begin to now equate that the ocean equals comfort, love, support, happiness, whatever it is, that they're safe. They're safe doing that. And so it depends on each person. It's a different way of doing it. And you have to, at each session, hit it in a little different way.
Mm-hmm.
There are people that highly suggestible people, you don't have to go there at all. With a highly suggestible person, you can simply say to them over and over, you are no longer afraid of the ocean. The ocean is your very best friend. When you get into that water, you swim like a fish. You feel completely confident, and they will come out, and never again will they have that fear.
And I hate those people. I'm married.
Yeah, right.
My husband is that guy. And he has always been like, I can hypnotize myself. He would be the guy who would volunteer for the stage stuff. And he's a complete introvert and never wants to be on a stage. But he's always been like, I can put myself in a hypnotized trance immediately. And he can. And I think it's because he was disassociating as a child to avoid trauma.
That is a whole other thing. But you see, that's a part of the process that's our survival instinct, which is why
he's a master.
Hypnosis is a part of what our body and minds do in order to survive.
Interesting.
We place ourselves there.
Do you feel like anyone is there anyone who is not workable with you?
Yeah, when they're just going to resist it. I find that a lot when the wife sends her husband in to stop smoking. And the husband doesn't want to stop. And he doesn't want to be there.
Okay.
Okay. You get a lot of that stuff. But otherwise, when somebody comes in on their own volition, and they say, I really want this, I need this, I can't live like this anymore. Okay. Then there's usually great success with that. But it just depends, though, because see, we don't like to change. Not only do we not like to change, we don't change as humans. We have a thing called homeostasis in our bodies that keeps everything operating in our bodies automatically, right? Well, the same goes on for psychological stuff, for emotional stuff.
Yeah.
We don't change. We are familiar and we are comfortable with what we know.
Well, I don't even think I'm comfortable with my misery.
Yeah.
You're
not consciously comfortable.
I feel like you're right. I do think that it's even if I don't like it, I feel trapped here. You're right.
Right. But you're consciously aware of that, but subconsciously, it's all you know.
Yeah.
That's what you know. And so until you start getting in touch with a part of your subconscious that doesn't feel that way, that is feeling very comfortable, is able to go through this, you're going to keep feeling the same way. But when people start getting close to change, oftentimes it's when they'll stop coming to hypnotherapy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because they're too close to it. It makes them so nervous. Their subconscious is saying, no way, no way, no way, back. You're not going to change because that's homeostasis. The same thing that fights off infections and all kinds of things in our lives also does the same thing with changing our thoughts.
I was doing yoga this morning and the yoga teacher was putting us in the most painful hip opening pose. And it was like excruciating. And she was like, lean in. And she was like, look, one more breath might be the breath where your body releases. What if you just did one more, right?
That's right.
And she was like, sometimes the biggest change comes right after we think we can't do it anymore.
That's right.
Now I feel like, I don't know, I'm not like going to go to Pacoima and see an astrologist, but I feel like two people have told me today
at all.
that I just need to maybe take one more breath and hang in there is what I feel right now.
But happening. You also have to know the difference between what is ecological and organic to you,
right?
Meaning if you have no legs and you need to do downward dog, it's not going to happen, is it?
Right.
So you have to know within your capacity, also no matter what. So there is a real realism to this. You don't become just a superhero just because Dr. Joe Dispenza wrote a book called, I love this book, Becoming Supernatural.
Okay.
Where you can become that in your mind. But you do have to know what you actually can do. What's within your range that you can handle. Now, whatever we think is in our range, keep going. You can do a whole lot more than that. And so you do it in baby steps.
Yeah, it's those baby
steps.
Take
that one more breath.
Take that.
Take that tiny little move. You don't just keep doing it. Like, I'm just going to just do the whole thing. Well, you're going to end up pulling every muscle in your body. And you'll be paralyzed from.
Yeah, exactly. Don't
Don't do it.
Don't do it. So definitely also with care. Don't go crazy.
Right.
Well, so what's the difference between a hypnotherapy when you really get into it and mindful meditation? Because those are two different things, definitely. How would
Definitely, yeah.
if anyone asks, well, how would you explain that?
Mindful meditation is learning how to simply focus on something where you get rid of your brain chatter.
Mm-hmm.
And by doing so, just by focusing, you're releasing anxiety and stress within yourself.
Okay.
So if you want to just go and, you can focus on, here's your coffee cup, and looking at the coffee cup and now taking a sip and what that feels like to go down your throat. You're not thinking about the traffic that you're about to hit, or whether your boss is going to scream or yell at you when you get to work, or whatever else is going to happen in your life, or you're going to have a fight with your husband. And you're thinking about the coffee.
Mm-hmm.
You're thinking about that immediate presence right then and there. You are here and now, and that's it. Okay. It's great for generalized stress and anxiety. But if you want to change yourself, if you want to change something in automatic behavior or automatic feelings that you have, automatic behaviors, automatic thoughts, anything that you have, including health issues, physical health issues, you have to go deep within, and you have to have a professional that works with you to reprogram. So, a hypnotherapist is the tech guy. The one that comes in to, when there's a problem with the computer, you call the tech guy. When there's a problem with your brain, the computer, you call the hypnotherapist.
That's the perfect analogy. That really is it. Okay. So each therapy session then is very personalized and this is what I thought was incredible, is that my daughter ended up coming home with personalized hypnotherapy tapes from you.
Right.
So are you recording those, like what happens in the session, or no, you give them a separate tape later, or how do you run this?
That's the session. And that's the part about repetition, because they're supposed to be listening to that at least, once a day, over and over, because remember, if you keep repeating it over and over, you learn it faster. Okay. So, I have people that never do it, and they're actually longer in hypnotherapy than people that do that it works much faster that way. If you go to school once a week, you take a class for an hour, right? And you're learning whatever you're learning, and then you don't do the homework and you don't do anything for a whole week, you forget it all. So the idea is to keep repeating it, because that's where your subconscious is going to take in that information. When it gets enough repetition in there, it says, oh, I get it. This is a part of what your life is like now. This is now a part of who you are. It's yours. The neural pathway is formed. It is now connected. It's inside your subconscious mind, and it becomes automatic.
So you send them home with a little recording from your session that they were there for.
Same session. And every week or 2 weeks or whatever it is that they come, some people come twice a week. It just, it depends. They're going to get
a new tape.
And
that's what they listen to that week.
Hitting it from all different ends, because you're also going to start coming up with other things as we go along. Your subconscious will start revealing itself more and more as you go along. Right. And so you're going to hit that thing, and then you're going to hit this thing, and then you're going to keep doing it until you are somehow recreated.
Well, because you're baby stepping them that. Oh, I see. So each baby, so that's why you have to keep going further, reinforcing. I mean, it's a little Paula Abdul. I'm sure there's like a little 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
Always. And that's the thing with homeostasis and people not being able to change. You know how people change usually, if you really think about it? They either go through a devastating thing in their life, the rug is pulled out from under them. They go into complete shock. They have no other way of changing.
Yeah.
Or just for years and years and years, they somehow have the willpower to keep persevering with something. But change doesn't happen just nicely. Like, your whole world changes and it's so beautiful. And in 24 hours, everything doesn't work like that. No.
You're gifting us a wonderful it was a 20-minute track, a hypnosis track that's going to be listed in this podcast as a bonus episode track, just your hypnotherapy session that you're so beautifully letting us have. Tell us a little bit about what that 20-minute clip will be so that they know what it's about.
Oh, okay. Well, this is actually not individualized at all.
Right.
It is a guided meditation that I did. I started getting into this, and this has been my COVID project.
Mm-hmm.
Just a few months into COVID, I started to feel like the need to get out and travel and move. And I started watching every travel channel you could imagine.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kind of said, I want to go there. I need to go there. And I thought, well, hold on a second here. Hold on. Even when I'd do those things online where you walk and you're walking through a city and you're just exercise.
Totally.
I said, hold on. I can go there in my mind anytime I want to. This is simply a project. This isn't what I necessarily do for my clients, but I do it for them because then, I'll have like a group meditation and we'll do this.
Mm-hmm.
But what I discovered in doing all this research is that there are so many extraordinary parts of our brain that just takes us to so many incredible places. But we need to have the focus, which is why I've always loved guided meditation so much, because you're not just sitting there trying to get the brain trash to go away that keeps coming in. Your brain never shuts up. So you're focusing and concentrating on these experiences of travel, and you're going to actual places in the country. And in this particular one you have is China. And I stayed away from like tourist type places because I've been to China a lot, and, tourist type places have a tendency to, the background and the historic background is very violent and severe. And so, I did it more where the traditions of Chinese type traditions, which there are so many, and their symbolisms, and you just start going through these magical experiences. And through that, you get to immerse yourself in the experience. And that alone, because you're going to, I first put you through a guided meditation, guided, to get you into a relaxed state. And then you start going through this process, and just automatically you're going to release anxiety and stress. That's just a given. That just does it. But then I give suggestions in there for prosperity and for success and, positivity, all of these things. And those are the things, like if you wanted to go and keep listening to that over and over, you would really start getting those feelings yourself, because you're really connecting to the feeling of what it is. So first you have to learn how to connect with your senses. Mm-hmm. So it's what you hear, it's what you see, it's what you touch, it's what you taste. You're really connecting with your senses, which is opening up your subconscious. Mm-hmm. And so that's how we take information in, through our senses, by the way.
Yeah, listen, I listened to it and it was one of those things where I was sad it was over.
Yeah.
And I didn't think I had time for it. Like I was like, what? And for whatever reason, I see the world you painted, and it's so interesting to know how different everyone's worlds, like if you could just show, because to me it's so clearly this way, and it was so beautiful and it was so detailed.
Right.
So
you create your world. But I do have, like, I just finished one with India where I've sent out photos of the places that we're visiting. And it's more like an actual tour, because you see India has such extraordinarily sacred places. Yeah. And so it's so easy to do that.
That's cool.
And so people actually have a visualization of where they're going. Mm-hmm. So I could change it up a bit. But with what I did for China, it's your own visualization of how you are in the bamboo forest, how you're, what are you feeling in your skin and your, what's going through you. And I do a section in there where I include the warrior, basically, that's in you, which is like Joseph Campbell's The Hero's Journey, where the person that has the courage to go on a journey of change and to really transform. And what that means. And so I have some symbolism for that as well in there. And you don't know it when you're listening to it. You go, what is that? Right. You don't know it, but I know it. Yeah. I know what it's going to, what that symbol generally means to people. Right. Because it's what we've learned in life.
Right. So it talks about, I feel like it was relaxing. I felt at peace. And then I felt like there was that idea of success, right? And life is going to be okay, and luck and prosperity and cleansing. Do you feel like those are the right takeaways? Yes. Okay, good.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
That's
if,
what it is.
If anyone
So-
is searching for any of those feelings, I highly recommend
Yes.
listen to the bonus track.
Yeah. It is meant for groups. It's not meant for individuals because it's not individually attacking issues that you have.
Right.
This is kind of a really fun meditation.
It was. Is there any, so I'm going to list your website. Is there any other, I wrote down, you said Becoming Supernatural, that book. I can put any references in the podcast notes for people that you think.
Oh, there's so many books. It's just a personal favorite of mine right now.
Is what?
Is Becoming Supernatural.
Okay.
But Joe Dispenza has his own way of, he doesn't use traditional hypnotherapy. He has his own process of what he does, which still comes to the same thing. There are other people out there. I mean, you can look at like Change Your Brain, Change Your Life, Dr. Amen. There's so many, like a whole library of them. I have to go through and just.
No, but this is good. And I think your website is a good, spot for them to start with too. So I like that. We'll have 2 books in that. A bonus track. My trees are looking great outside. I don't know if you guys can hear that. They're really killing the trees. It's going to get very sunny all of a sudden. PK, I cannot thank you enough. Like this,
you're so welcome.
I think you're incredible. I'm telling the audience for real, my daughter leaps and bounds. She is not afraid of the ocean. She surfed this morning and she surfs 3 to 4 times a week and has been for the last 2 years since she saw you. But her anxiety and stress is completely different. And I felt like she resonated more with you, unfortunately, more than she did with the therapist. And I'm very pro mental health therapy. So I was sad that didn't work with her, but I found something that did. And I think you're incredible. And I encourage everyone to really be open to what hypnotherapy has to offer, because this is pretty incredible. So.
Oh, thank you so much. I really enjoyed being with you and talking about this.
Likewise.
Yeah.